Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on deposit systems. My name is Eva Dimitrova. I am from For the Earth Environmental Association, and we're here today to do a webinar and raise awareness about deposit systems around the world. The program for the webinar will be the following. We'll give the floor to our two guests, Stūrītis, who is the CEO of the deposit operator in Latvia, and Marian Áč, CEO of the deposit operator in Slovakia, those being the two newest deposit systems in Europe. And they will share their experience, lessons learned, and any tips they might have for us. Also, what we're actually doing right now is the short introduction. What is a deposit system? That is a system whereby when purchasing a beverage, you pay a certain price for the bottle, and when you return that to the shop, you're given that money back. Systems like that exist in 50 jurisdictions around the world and 16 countries in Europe. Many other countries are in the process of trying to implement a system like that. So without further ado, I'll give the chance to our first guest, Stūrītis, who is the CEO of the deposit operator in Latvia. Stūrītis, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon to all participants. Do you hear me well? Very good. Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Stūrītis. I'm a manager of CEO of Latvian Deposit Systems Operator, or as we are calling it, DIO in abbreviation. I joined the deposit system project from very beginning back in 2020, just after the respective legislation was approved in Latvia, and producers decided to join that initiative and to apply for a license for an operator, and actually to create an operator from scratch, from very beginning. So overview of Latvian deposit return system, but I will start with just to remind where the Latvia is, and that we are not a very large country, especially by means of population. So we are less than 2 million inhabitants. Area more than 64,000 square kilometers, and our annual, which is most important part for a deposit system. So there are sold a bit more than 500 million packages per year. What challenges we had as a country before deposit system? When we did, and that is basically one of the main or principal goals of the deposit system was reducing littering in the nature. And at least from the society point of view, it was the main goal. Because it was easy to identify with different monitorings that if we analyzed any kind of waste or littering near the roadsides in the nature, 60 to 80% ended up the beverage containers from all littering found in nature. So it was a huge share. And so it made the contamination, obviously, and glass, PET especially, but also cans. For industry, it was meaning damage to the reputation and brands, because there was a certain lot of environmental activists pointing it out. And obviously the largest brands were damaged more because they were more represented into the nature. And if we speak about circular economy, which is another important goal, the recycling rate was less than 50% via existing curbside collection. system. And as it is almost always with our deposit system, with the traditional waste management, the data what government could obtain from about collection and recycling was quite vague and inaccurate. Opposite to the deposit system, where the normal deposit system is accounting every single package being put to the market and then collected. Then about the roadmap, so the legislation was adopted end of 19. Then June 2020, when I joined the project, there was established a DIO as a company by top 4 producers agreement on late 2019. And then only in the August there was adopted secondary legislation, we're calling here in Latvia Cabinet of Minister rules about how the deposit system should look in the details. And then 1st of September, it was announced evaluation criteria for accreditation, because here in Latvia we had kind of open tender for accreditation. And we had just 1 month to make a detailed business plan and submit an application. Together with detailed operations plan, financial plan, everything else for 7 years. And then a few months later, end of the year 2020, DIO was appointed as a DRS operator for 7 years period. And that's why we are kind of legal monopoly for 7 years period, which means that that in less than 4 years there will be a new accreditation process announced, and we should reapply. And also other candidates, if any, can do the same, can apply. So in a way, it's a kind of a tender. If there would be just one candidate, then it would be just a simple accreditation. And then we had the implementation time from till 1st of February. Okay, so here's a mistake, sorry, till 1st of February 2022. When was the date of the starting of the system? Yeah, so we had nearly a bit more than 1 year to organize and implement the system. And the deadline, the 1st of February 22nd, was set into the Packaging Act or law. So it was not changeable, because there was some ideas, especially from retailer side, also from some producer sides, because of the COVID pandemic, we should prolong it. But as a change of the law is something not so easy, and from the political side, nobody wanted to do, and I actually can say that it was the right decision not to prolong something with very solid reasons. Of course, it was hard, it was challenging, definitely, but it provided that we could do it on time. And our kind of main kind of takeaways that how the system should be, that the concept of back to retail and extended producers responsibility, or EPR, should be a guiding principle for any legislation for a deposit system. Because what it means, it includes 2 main things. Like back to retail concept should be defined into the law, making a duty or obligation for retailers to accept, probably not for all retailers, but above certain size. About that more in details later. And EPR principle is that any operator's candidate should be should be controlled by industry, meaning producers, importers, and retailers, because those are the entities who are in the business, and they are the most, how to say, interested entities, in fact, that the deposit system would not be any way of doing additional business, because the participation fee or a cost of the deposit system operations is paid by industry. Yeah, so the industry is the most motivated side to control, follow the efficiency of the system. At the same time, providing the best possible return rates. Because in the deposit system, you can easily make it golden, full of different fancy solutions. But then the question is, will it be efficient? And how much it will cost? Because at the end of the day, all the costs will be covered by consumers. And that is something where you can appear to be in a problematic situation when there is a steep price increase because of the cost of the inefficient deposit system. So industry producers, importers, have to control the system. Legislation flows, or we can say, because normally when the deposit system is implemented in legislation, there should be done some analysis of isn't it in contradiction with some other existing laws. And despite because normally it should be non-for-profit definition, and we have it in our law and also in our statutes as a company that a profit can occur, but nobody from the shareholders is allowed to take it out as a dividends. As well, competition is good, but it is important that it's coming from the industry, because nobody is saying that the whole industry always will be united. There might be probably 2 or 3 candidates coming from the industry, controlled by industry, and then the best should win. And in Latvia, the regulator was involved as a political compromise. So what are supervising authorities in case of Latvia? That's State Environmental Service of the Latvia, which is operating under the Ministry of Climate and Energy. In addition to that, the participation fee, what the industry is paying to the operators, is approved by Public Utilities Commission, or other words, regulator, regulating, for example, the gas prices or some other public services pricing. And legal monopoly for 7 years. Deposit fee unified for all types of the packaging, 10 euro cents. Currently, we have more than 1,140 RBMs installed. Also using extensively outdoor kiosks installed near the shops, near the supermarkets. Comparatively small share of manual deposit points, collecting that 4%. And we are servicing also HoReCa collection points, which means HoReCa means that you cannot return package from the street here as a consumer, but HoReCas naturally have larger quantities of packaging ending up into the process of service delivery, and we are collecting from them for free. So we are not charging for any transportation. We are collecting on certain frequency, and then end of the month are paying them back as a deposit fee. So all in all, 436 retailers, more than 340 producers, agreements with. As a company, we are employee-wise, we are small, but normally the operators are not big companies. We have 23 employees only in the packaging register currently, which means we have unique more than 11,500 SKUs registered into the deposit system. And all packaging, including which falls under the scope of the deposit system, what you can see here, it is compulsory to be a part of the deposit system. In some countries, there is a possibility that kind of a voluntarily deposit system, and if you are not registered under the deposit system, then other option is to pay a natural resource tax increased by several times. In our case, it's not an option. So everything what falls under those kind of product dimension and material dimension, like glass, PET, and metal packaging, where it's packaged like non-alcoholic drinks and syrups, beer, all types of alcoholic drinks in cans and plastic bottles, and then also cocktails up to 50%. So what is exempt from the system in Latvia? Milk products and wine, sparkling wine, and hard, like strong alcohols in glass. They are outside the scope of the system currently. About retailers' participation, we have set minimum thresholds for retailers measuring the sales area. So the 10 biggest cities have the threshold of 300 square meters. All other territories having 60 or more square meters must ensure collection by law. The rest can participate on voluntarily basis. And yeah, they are doing it. We are having like 150 voluntarily retailers participating. However, it is not requested by legislation. About statistics and results, here you can see what is the material structure of the Latvia. So a bit less than half is PET. We are also splitting like clear PET without any color, and color PET. Well, bit less than 1/3 is aluminium cans, metal cans, and then the rest is glass, which again we have three parts, which is one-way glass or recyclable glass, and then we have two types of RGB, means refillable glass bottle or refillable cell, so bottles meant for refilling several times, mostly used by beer breweries. And if we look product-wise, yeah, so we can see the split here. Soft drinks, water, and beer making the biggest part, and then coming by cocktails, and then the rest is forming a small fraction. Results by years. First year, we initially planned quite optimistic 70%, but we did 62%. I also will touch the reasons a bit. Last year was made 80% in average. This year we expect to go about, okay, here is 83.7 or almost 84%. About glass packaging, as you saw, 26% of all deposit packaging is glass. At the same time, it's making 78, almost 80% of the all weight of the packaging, since glass is very heavy. And in total, we had those 325 million bottles put. And if we look how we are, what's worth to point out that in Latvia, we are, I think, one of the rare systems where operator is responsible for refillables, because normally, historically, in other EU countries, the refillables, if any exist, it's not the responsibility of the deposit system operator. It's more like breweries and retailer separate independent system. In our case, we are responsible for collecting and reaching targets also in the refillable area. What we also introduced, we introduced a standard refillable bottle. What does it mean? It means that it is unified bottle used by, in our case, by now 20, bit less than 30 breweries, starting from big ones, ending up with small craft breweries. And then, of course, there is individual shape refillables, which means that those shapes are used by only some breweries, by one brewery. It cannot be used by others. And here you can see the split of the total glass. Like 1/3 is recyclable glass or one-way glass. Then the biggest portion is made by standardized shapes, and then 15% is individual design. Yeah, and here you can see those standardized bottles and number of breweries, because what is the importance and how it is helping us and retailers, because retailers don't have to sort by different producers. They can put it one crate, regardless of the brewery where the bottle has been before, and then they are washing away labels and putting their label for the next round. Here is just an example of the instruction poster to the retailers, how to sort the refillables. Of course, refillables are making extra difficulties, extra complexity in the whole deposit system. As a glass in general, yeah, because handling the glass is always more challenging than handling compacted PET and plastic. That's to be understood. But in the end of the day, glasses, if we speak about refillables and in the light of new PPWR regulations to be expected, which are almost approved, then the refillable and glass in the future might play an important role. Yeah, so it's total figures of refillable by so far. Yeah, then probably about the first year experience, as I mentioned, we reached 62% of total average return. But here you can see what was the return rate dynamics. So first month, just a few percent, less than 2, then 10%. Yeah, so went it up probably end of the year by till 85, 87. If to count separate months, but altogether we made 62. Here is we are having in our legislation progressive intermediary targets. So each year slightly increasing. Here is how we looked with our January to October results of this year versus the targets. So we are meeting or over achieving them in all areas except metal, because in Latvia we have separate target for black metal or for steel packaging, which is a specifics of our legislation. Probably we will convince the government to change it, since the steel packaging is very, very small fraction, consisting of just 0.1% of the total volume. And we are not meeting with one specific reason, that in those steel cans there is sold products which are being sold cross-border to our neighboring countries, mainly Estonia and also Finland. That's why we are struggling with reaching over those 65%, which is not a high recycling or collection rate for a deposit system at all. Also aluminium cans, that's another reason we are, though, meeting the target, but we are, as you can see, we are below the PAT and below the glass significantly for the cans. That's the same reason that those cans are going abroad. Then key learnings from our way to the deposit system. I think it's very, very important to understand if any deposit system like habits exist before introduction of deposit system, like refillable return schemes, for example. And probably I am quite sure that Marian will be able to comment on this, because in Slovakia, to my knowledge, there was quite developed return of the refillables in the shops. However, in Latvia, it was completely lost from the Soviet times, must say. Very in my childhood, there was return option manual collection for refillables, but it was lost. It was done without any deposit system through some defragmented, decentralized small businesses, and people had fully lost that habit of returning something back to the shop and the whole logic of deposit systems. That's why it was completely new, something for Latvia, and we had to put extra effort to introduce that habit from scratch. And participation of retailers, that's a key for operator. Yeah, so and it was not easy in the beginning to convince that the deposit system is not just an extra duty, but it's also will make a competitive advantage for the retailers, because very quickly people understand that, okay, they want to get rid of their empties, they want to get back their money, and if this service is provided in a poor quality, for example, RVM machines, return vending machines, are not cared, they're not clean, they're not emptied properly. Yeah, so it's bad service. So they even are ready to change the shop. Important thing, support from government authorities, flexibility in finding solutions, sometimes even in the last moment. Yeah, one example can give you legislation about transportation of packaging. Like a few months before the system launch, it appeared that actually, according existing legislation, all empty packages should be considered as waste. And waste has a special, very detailed and heavy bureaucratic rules for transporting. Transport companies have to obtain special licenses, have to license the trucks, etc., etc., etc. And that would make very expensive logistics. That would totally exclude reverse logistic out of the game, and we could not use retailers for collecting. And in our case, our government quickly understood it and in very record terms changed or adapted the legislation, making it as an exclusion. And currently, for example, empty packaging is becoming waste only in the moment when it enters into our handling center. Yeah, then of course small retailers, if the deposit system is compulsory for them, and it should be compulsory, they are in many cases are not in the beginning are not very happy because they're trying to find different ways and reasons why they cannot handle it, and sometimes they like to exaggerate. And there was just in the picture you can see our average pickup from small retailer and how much place it's taking. Retailers, for example, claim that that average pickup is taking like 20 square meters, which apparently was not true. Correct. And also our research showed that 24% of the consumers are ready to change their shop if the collection of deposit packaging is delivered in a poor quality. Yeah, so retailers can ask themselves, is every fourth consumer for them important or not? Yeah, so I think the answer is normally very straightforward if to look it from that angle. Yeah, skip probably that. One thing from what I just wanted to point out, considering timing, make sure that your deposit sign differs from the deposit signs of your neighboring countries, because already Hungary is having a deposit system, yeah, and Romania is having deposit system, because we made that mistake. On the left is our sign, in the middle is Estonian sign. For us, it seemed like pretty much different, but not for consumers. And in Latvia, but with the international codes, there was a lot of Estonian labeled bottles, but they could not be returned because they were Estonian. Important thing about transition period, yeah, we had 6 months transition period. I see that some countries are choosing to have 1 year transition period, but please understand that the longer is the transition period, more frustration is in the consumer side, because it means it will be longer time when there will be a mess into the consumer minds and also into the retailer shelves. Yeah, because there will be on parallel the same products with deposit sign and without. And retailers will tend to bring everything to the reverse vending machine and let machine to sort out. And then, of course, half of the bottles will not be collected and they will be totally angry to the system. That's one thing. Another thing is that if there is a long period, producers or industry or importers, then they are anyway leaving to the last few months, majority of them, not all, but some part of them. And it anyway will be done in a hurry. So our lessons learned here is that transition period should be realistic. Of course, it cannot be done in 1 month, but as short as possible. And that's 3 to 4 months for retailers and 1 month for producers to be ready to start delivering products with new labels and new EN codes. Because in majority, not 100%, but 95%, all products should change EN codes. And of course, it is a challenge for and requires extra planning for producers and importers. And then, of course, when the system starts operating, then there is a lot of things which suddenly becomes important. For example, the voluntary kind of change of the shape somewhere abroad when you are importer of the product, but but overseas producer decided to change the shape of the glass bottle, leaving the same EN code, and suddenly consumers cannot return because reverse vending machine is recognizing the shape. Labels are sometimes not waterproof, meaning they are very quickly losing the ink, and that one, as you can see on this bottom left picture, cannot be returned because EN code is gone. Or another next to that, it is a faulty labeled packaging, not all EN code visible. That one also will not be possible to return. And of course, consumers are not happy because they feel that somebody has steal the 10 cents, which is true in a way, because they paid, but they cannot get them back. Yeah, and of course, since all bottles counted, we can easily say which producers or importers are trying to cheat the system, if any. But there has been cases, not many, but still, when return rate goes above 100%. Yeah, which means it's not the only reason. It could be also other reasons, but everything is under the control for the system. And in the end, just because sometimes people see that okay, deposit system is not nothing very special. Just install vending machines in the shops and start collecting. In fact, it's a visible side of the iceberg. It's actually a pretty detailed, pretty complicated system beneath logistics, IT, finance, billing, invoicing, etc., etc. And everything must run as smooth as possible, because if not, then very quickly someone starts to be very nervous. And yeah, and today, of course, introducing the system, it is very important to especially as I mentioned before, if no deposit system habits existing, you should teach very simple things in the beginning. Later, and that is a kind of image of our last campaign, which was more focused on youngsters, because when in the first 2 years we introduce those habits, we educate people what is how the system works. Then you will be able to focus on specific segments which are still not returning enough. And in many countries, those are those teenage, like late teenagers, like early 20s, that generation, which probably have less time, are more on the go. And then they are focusing on that. Yeah. Here is just our example of one local famous rap singer, what we use for that. But probably you are not hearing me because of the Zoom specifics, so I will not play it all. So thank you very much. That was in very nutshell from my side. But then how we are doing about questions right now or after?
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Marian Áč. I'm from Slovakia, and I'm a CEO of the Slovak deposit return system. I prepared for you a short presentation regarding our system. So why the DRS was introduced in Slovakia, let's say the main motivation was to increase the collection and of course recycling of the plastic bottles and cans. Before the DRS was implemented, there was a study which said that approximately 60% of the plastic bottles were collected separately and then recycled. Slovakia has committed to increase the beverage packaging collection to 90% by 2025. And DRS system collects, of course, more high quality material for recycling and also for reuse, or let's say circularity. And one of the biggest advantages of the DRS system is also decrease of the littering, which definitely was confirmed also in the Slovakia. And once you are recycling and circling the material, then you are saving the natural resources, like also for the PET and also for the can containers production. Okay, short path how it was implemented. As you can see, the first act was approved in 2019.
and then it took more than 2 years for go live. So there were several steps, but the most important part was, let's say, the February 21st, when our organization received the confirmation from the Ministry of Environment to run the DRS system in Slovakia, and we started 1st of January 22. As you can see, the path is quite long. So from the act to the real production or operation, it needs some time. DRS system looks quite easy, but it's quite complex system because it has a lot of stakeholders. At the end, of course, the customers, the state is also playing some kind of role. So you need a lot of technology and cooperation with different parties involved. A little bit about the founding. So we are a non-profit organization. We, let's say, are gathering together producers and retailers. As I already mentioned, we provide our services based on the authorization from the Ministry of Environment. We are the only company who is doing this collection in Slovakia. Responsible for the creation, administration, financing, and coordination of the DRS system in Slovakia. From the corporate structure, we have board of directors, supervisory board, general manager, and let's say some of the state has also representatives in the supervisory board. In the management board, there are only producers. The idea behind is that producers have to finance the system, so they should also decide about the management of the system. Here you can see the symbol which we have on our deposited containers. Founders, as I mentioned, there are our organization is gathering producers and also retailers. So there are 4 organizations or associations who are the owners of our company. 2 of them are representing retail, and 2 of them are representing producers, so beer producers and water or soft drink producers. As I mentioned already, there are several partners or stakeholders of the collection system or depositor system. So Slovakia is a quite small market. We have in total approximately 1.2 billion containers in scope. On the other hand, as you can see, almost 400 producers, 370 distributors are already within the system. We have 5 RVM providers with several RVM machines. We are using 3 types of collection. The most relevant is automated collection, so the RVMs. Then we have the manual collection for the small shops and some semi-automated collection which is used by the administrator for special like festivals or some aqua parks or other one-shot events. From the collection point, currently we have almost 3,500 collection points, out of which 35% are mandatory. In Slovakia, there is a law which says that if the retailer has the selling square area more than 300 meters, has to have the collection point. The rest collection points are voluntarily created, but as you can see, 65% of the collection points are voluntarily decided by the retailers. After some time, the retailers understood that if you are selling the product, the customer also expect when he's coming back that he can also return the container. So from this perspective, most of the big shops have the RVMs and also the smaller shop. There are plenty of small shop which have the manual collection, so using scanners. Regarding the packaging which are included, so we have the ranging 0.1 to 3 liters. We have only plastics and metal. In Slovakia is a little bit different situation as Mix described in Latvia. The main reason is that we have still quite common the refill glass. It's used mainly for the beer. More than of the glass trash produced in Slovakia or glass produced in Slovakia is refill, and that was the reason why the legislation decided, or the Ministry of Environment decided that glass won't be a part of our system, which we are quite happy. Regarding the size, volume from 0.1 to 3 liters, it has to be, the content has to be for, let's say, covering the thirst, so to drink. Excluded are milk and milk-based drinks, mainly due to the food grade material reasons, then syrups, and alcoholic beverages which have alcohol more than 15%. Financing, as you can see, the most relevant income for the company or for the organization is the industry fee. So the producers has to pay the industry fee for each container or product which they are selling on the market. Then one of the relevant incomes is also the selling of the material, and 1/3 is also created by the uncollected deposit. And here I will try to show you a short video. I hope it will work, so you can hear it. It doesn't work. Okay, so maybe I will use the slide. It works. Okay, so this is the deposit cycle. It's quite simple, but on the other hand, also quite complex complex cycle, because the deposit is say traveling from one partner to another one. If the cycle is closed, meaning that the customer is returning the container, then of course the deposit, there is no profit for anybody. The only reason is to motivate the customer to return the product. In case the customer doesn't return the product or the container, of course, is a profit of the administrator of our company. Okay, so producers, they play, of course, very important part. First of all, as I mentioned already, half of our organization is owned by the producers. On the other hand, they have to pay the industry fee for us, which is the main source of financing. Then they have to report us how many containers or how many products they put on the market. So the data we have are fully based on the numbers or of the data from the producers. On the other hand, after some time, you can check it, because if they are underestimated and you have more product collected than reported, then of course you can come back to the producer and start to discuss with him. The package has to be clearly labeled, which means that the consumer has to see the mark, has to see also that it's deposited, and has to see the value of the deposit. And of course, the producers has to keep some kind of special or separated records regarding these products, so the administrator can audit them if necessary. One of, let's say, some kind of specialties in Slovakia, it's not so common in every country or where the deposit return systems are, is the option right or the right of the first refusal, meaning that the producers have a right based on the fair share to buy the material from the administrator. At the same time, the producer has to declare that the material which the producer will sell him will be used for production of the new containers, meaning that there is this material cycle, and we can secure by this way that yeah, it is not only recycled, but it's again used for the same product production. As I mentioned, is on the fair share principles, meaning that not one of the big producers can buy all the products, all the material we are gathering, but can buy only his share on the market. The owner of the material is the administrator. What we are gathering, it's our ownership. The material which is not sold to the producers is sold within the auctions directly to the recycling companies. So we can declare that, let's say, 100% of the material which we are gathering is also recycled, and the big proportion of that is circulated in the same product. Here you can see the results of the option, what I mentioned already in 2023. For the 2024, we even increased the numbers. So if you consider these three main colors, transparent, blue, and green, we were able to sell almost 85% directly to the producers, which was almost 15,000 tons. And this material was used for the production of new beverages. In the can, still big retailers who have own marks. Not all of them are, let's say, have joined this option right. So we can declare that we have 70%, but I expect in 2025 this number will go up also in the aluminium with the aluminium material. Okay, distributors has to let's say put the information that there's a 15 cents on each bill. It has to be clear and visible. It has to be separated, so the deposit amount must be recorded separately. We have no VAT on the deposit, and as I mentioned, if there is the sales place or area of the retail shop bigger than 300 meters, and this shop is selling this kind of product, they have to have also the collection point. Yeah, we pay to the retailers. We pay the handling fee. That's the price which they are getting from us for collecting of the material. Based on the Slovak law, they should not make a profit. So the handling fee should reflect only their cost which they have with the gathering of this material. So all material which is, let's say, gathered, we pay to the retailers for each container. There are several levels, several or different levels of the handling fee. So the structure is more complex. Here you can see some examples of the collection points. Some of the retailers decided, as you can see, for example, Bila, to put it in the containers on the parking places, but most of the RVMs are inside the shops. And of course, on the right bottom, you can see the hand scanners, which are fully provided by the administrator, also with the software and hardware. So it's one solution, a complex solution, and we take care that it's also working. So we are responsible for the availability of these hand scanners for the retailers. One of the possibilities how to collect are also the alternative collection points. When I mentioned 3,500 collection points, I was talking about the retailers. So these are the main and most important collection points we have. But on the other hand, the administrators tries to also find another partners, and usually it's ad hoc. It's just for special event, like for example festivals or or we have some kind of branded containers established for the schools or sports centers and so on. In this case, the deposit is not paid out. So the customer is returning the deposit without the right to get the deposit back. But most of these cases, all of these cases, the deposit we pay to the organizer of the event, and the income of this is used for special purposes. It can be for the charity or for development of the festival or of the city and so forth. One of our quite successful projects and well appreciated project is also cooperation with the national parks. Slovakia has several national parks, so we have cooperation with 7 of them and 17, let's say, location. We put this special kind of containers. As you can see, they are also bear resistant, and also the profit from these let's say containers or deposit which is gathered within the national parks is used for the development or support of the national park in Slovakia. Okay, very shortly regarding the process, the owners of the RVMs or collection points are the retailers, so we don't own RVMs, so they are obliged to buy the collection machine. Our task starts from, let's say, collecting the material from the stores. Of course, we have direct connection to the RVMs from the data perspective, so we can see exactly how many bottles or containers were collected, and in which, let's say, which kind of containers were collected. This is very important, mainly due to the fraud, but of course also due to the handling fee. So we can then set off the payment with the retailers. So once we are collecting the material from the retail stores, so the logistics is already organized by us. Then we have some inter warehouses throughout Slovakia, because part of the material is not compacted. We are pressing this material in these locations, so not to, let's say, transport or transport efficiently. And then we have one sorting center which is nearby Trenčín in Kočovce, where we are, let's say, finally cleaning the cans or can material, and where we are sorting the PET material on 5 colors or 5 streams. Here you can see, let's say, some photos from our interim warehouses and the technology which we are using there. For the hand scanners, or let's say the small shops manual collection, the containers are not screwed or compacted at the store, so we are counting them at our counting centers, which are in these interim warehouses. This is the sorting center in Kočovce. Here you can see the area of the storage and of the production hall, and one photo of our technology. These are also some photos from our technology. The capacity of the line is 4.5 ton per hour for the PET and 2.5 ton per hour for cans. Of course, at the end of the process, there is pressing, and we are trying to press as much as possible to be logistics efficient. Regarding purity and sorted material in Slovakia, due to the fact that in Slovakia we decided to separate material at the level of the RVM, so there is no mixture of these materials during the process of gathering and also collecting. Our material is very clean. We can guarantee 93% of the purity of the sorted material from the color perspective, and 95% purity in the can material. Here you can see some statistics, so how many numbers or what kind of numbers we are talking about. So in 2023 we gathered almost 25.5 tons of the trash. Current data. So in third year we will collect 3 billion. As I mentioned, the Slovak market is approximately 1.2 billion per year of the total amount. Our collection rate is 92%. We are very proud of that. Also for 24, we expect, or the data are showing, that the collection rate will be more than 90%. in 1 year we were able to gather approximately 1 billion of containers. We are doing regular surveys. It's very important to know the feedback from the customers. It's very relevant because we know what is their attitude, how they consider the DRS system. The DRS system is somehow influencing every inhabitant of the country because everybody is drinking this kind of products and needs to return it. So as you can see, the 95% of the population is using the deposit system, which is also showed in our collection rate. What we are also checking is the accessibility of the collection points, if the network is big enough, if it's accessible, and what is the feedback from the customers. One maybe hint, what we were surprised that the young generation is not so interested in the, let's say, the environmental effect of the deposit system. So more the middle and older age generation are, let's say, more enthusiastic because of the nature protection. The younger generation are more collecting and returning because to get the deposit back. Littering, as I mentioned, you can see the cat and pet in the middle of the graph. It went rapidly down, so the proportion of this material in the littering is really small and dropped down after the DRS system was implemented. Maybe lesson learned for the countries who are preparing the system. So all stakeholders has to be on the boat, meaning retailers, producers, but also the state. Let's have enough time for preparation because it's not easy to set up all the warehouses, collection points. Also, IT is quite complex. So I think the preparation phase is very important. And of course, you need to have some kind of sufficient human resources background because you cannot find experts on the DRS in the country which doesn't have the DRS, of course. And that's everything from my side. Thank you.
So does the DRS operator in your country has the access to EU funds or other sources of public funding?
No, we are fully private-owned organization, so we don't have any public resources.
It's the same for Latvia.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Next one. I'm gonna switch to English again. How do you measure the effect on litter composition, quantity? Who carries out the annual audits of littered waste?
So for our, let's say, products or our containers, we have quite exact data coming from the RVMs on the level of the PCs. So what we are gathering, we have very good reporting, and we are reporting our numbers, let's say. So of course, Ministry of Environment can anytime come and can audit the numbers which we are then providing them.
Yeah, and in our case, if I understood the question exactly, then the littering is monitored by some NGOs, and in our case there was some monitorings done, for example, of the Baltic Sea coast in 2021, 2022, and then we can compare data with the same place monitoring in 23, for example, and then we can see the drop. If we speak about percentage or composition of general waste, the presence of the beverage packages, then it's not monitored specifically for the beverages. Yeah, it's monitored for the presence of the plastic, etc. But if the question is about the collection, then like Marian said, the deposit system is counting every single bottle being put to the market and being collected.
Thank you very much. The next one would be, what difference does the cover standard for PET deposit bottles makes in terms of treatment and costs?
So we are distinguishing this in the price of the industry fee. So the most common and the best for recycling, meaning the transparent blue and green, have the lower industry fee. So the producers who are, say, producing the transparent are paying the lowest fee to the administrator. The producers who are using, for example, dark brown or I don't know, something like that, then they are paying more for each bottle.
Yeah, the same principle applies here. I think one of the guiding principles of the deposit system is that there should not be present cross subsidies from material to material, meaning that for each material type, the operator is maintaining like separate independent profit and loss. And then of course, because and then the general economics of the non-profit deposit system is that that operator is receiving revenues from sales of material, revenues from unredeemed deposit, or meaning that share of the bottles never brought back, and then all rest what is necessary should be calculated as a participation fee ideally, and normally at least in Latvia it is what is happening. Yeah. So in case of some packaging, for example, in Latvia, producers have not paid a single euro cent for a can because aluminium is expensive material, and we don't need any additional financing from industry, like an example.
Okay, thank you. And one last question that we're going to address in the webinar would be, what is the impact on the consumption of goods in PET bottles or in the cans? And is there any reduction in the amount of bottles or cans used per year? I guess this is considering the sales before deposit system implementation and after, if I understand the question correctly.
Yes, this is a common threat which is coming from the market before the DRS is implemented. It was the same in Slovakia, but the practice didn't confirm it. So the DRS system was introduced in 2022, and each year the volume of the market is growing.
I can only confirm. I also had that worry from the producers, even especially for local producers not having that international experience. And I can say even on contrary that when there was this transition period of a few months, there was producers who intentionally wanted to do it in the last moment because they were afraid that it will impact the sales, or in a way they will get more sales if their products will remain last without deposit fee. But actually people, because normally the deposit system is making so noisy communication about the introduction of deposit system, that people wanted to buy products with a deposit sign to test the system, to use the system. And actually those producers who were first putting in the terms of transition periods the deposited products actually won, because I even had the pictures of the shelves empty for the products with the deposit sign. So vice versa.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for this insight. So I would very much like to thank you and the interesting presentations that you gave. It was interesting to see how the two countries differ. And for example, Latvia having the unified glass bottles for beer, their shape, and Slovakia having the standard for covers of the plastic bottles that has been introduced. Maybe this is something that could be replicated in other countries as well. As it is showing positive results. So I would like also to thank our speakers for having this time to share the experiences and all the knowledge that they have gathered so far. And also I would like to thank our interpreter, despite having a bit of technical issues, and hopefully fingers crossed that in the very near future, we're going to be having an actual working deposit system in Bulgaria. I would like to wish you all a great evening and thank you for being with us.
Thank you also for the invitation. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much for my side as
Bye-bye.
well. Have a nice evening.
You.
Thank you. You too.